Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you for the next 2 hours right here on Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Got a great show for you. Every day we've got a great show, Adam, but today especially we're talking with Paul Charchian, going through Guillotine leagues, guys to target. We've got a lot more league winner conversations going on. It's a good day. How you doing?
Yes, it is a good day. It's Tuesday. It's hot as hell here
Is
in New
it
York. Oh yeah, it's
already?
blazing. Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah. The next
Ugh.
today
Did you go for your
tomorrow.
walk
I
or
still
no?
go. I just come back drenched in sweat. But yeah, I'll still
You
go.
you go
There's
for your walks before the show? You wake
no,
up that
hell
early?
no.
Oh, okay.
Before
I
the
was like,
show? No,
"What?"
I'm
I was
barely awake
shocked.
before the show.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna be very shocked
I
if you
was
were
up earlier
walking
today though.
before.
I probably should have. That was a good point. I probably should have went for
Oh
it.
my
But
gosh,
hey,
it's already 88 degrees there? That's
yeah, it'll be
crazy.
like 92 in a few minutes and then like 97.
Ooh,
But hey,
that's too
no
warm.
days off, right? Still got to go for the walk.
Whatever you say. Yes, you
Yeah.
do. Yeah, you do.
I know you won't.
I won't. No. If it's 97 degrees, you will not find me outside.
I
No
see that.
chance. Whatever. That's a good day though. I was shocked. I was shocked if you were going to tell me you were walking before this show. I actually wouldn't have believed you. I
Yeah,
thought you were a liar.
that's a little too early. I mean, it's probably the best idea because it'll obviously be the coolest as at any point today outside of tonight. But yeah, I'll just deal with it. What are you gonna do
What are you gonna do? You're gonna go for your walks and no more softball, so that stings
for a
for a while.
month?
Couple weeks, yeah,
Yeah,
because
a
you
month.
lost.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe a couple weeks might be filling in a little bit. So
All right. I like it. I like it. Well, it's going to be a great day. FantasyLife.com, as always. I want to point you guys in that direction. All of our articles 100% free, as always. Same with that newsletter in your inbox 7 days a week. But all the tools that we're talking about today, and we talked about a lot of them. We always talk about a lot of them. But, we've got player projections live on the website. So when we're referencing those are there in the drop down with the tools. We've got the ADP grid, which is always up for us as well. And then everything else, Guillotine League analysis. You've got the utilization report and stats. That has been an amazing upgrade over there. So make sure you go to fantasylife.com. Use that code SXM20. Gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription because Adam, it's basically time. And we can't even say that it's starting. I mean, you and I are in drafts right now. I'm in slow drafts. So a little bit different. You've got a draft this weekend? Yes, this
yeah,
weekend.
Saturday
And
the
it's coming up.
Flex League drafts, which will be broadcast right here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I believe the first is 11 a.m. Eastern. I will be in that draft, and then I will be broadcasting at 1 p.m. Eastern for the Super Flex draft.
Nice. You and producer Ani hanging out? Best friends?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a while, so yeah, I think we're forced to. We have to work together.
That's good.
So
No, it's
yeah,
good. And like I said, we've got drafts going on right now, so it's time. It's not something where we're saying, "Oh, in a few weeks, can't believe it's going by so fast." It's here. So make sure you're scheduling your drafts. Make sure you're going to fantasylife.com using that promo code SXM20 cuz we're going to help you dominate and win every single one of your leagues. I feel like it's not a big deal to say that, Adam. So let's get into some of the news from just yesterday. Kind of want to go through. Let's first start with Courtland Sutton here, because he did reach the 4-year, $92 million extension. That was per Adam Schefter yesterday. So he's 29 years old and was set to enter the final season of his 4-year, $60.8 million extension that he signed over in Denver in 2021. And it looks like he's coming down with some money. So this is good for. We're always team pay the players. Terry McLaurin. It looks like the longer they wait on that, the more expensive he's going to get. But Courtland Sutton last season finished with a career best 81 receptions, 1,081 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. Were also the second highest season totals of his 7-year career. So this made sense. They didn't really go out. They got Evan Ingram. They got Pat Bryant. So Adam, they brought in some competition over there, but we always knew that Courtland Sutton was going to be the wide receiver one on this team. What are your expectations for him and Bo Nix going into this season?
yeah, he should have another good season. Now, some of the target share could be cut into just a little bit, but it looks like Sutton clearly is going to be the number one guy. You mentioned they bring in Evan Ingram, so he can get some. And
Yep.
then the other receivers, it's probably going to be spread out at this point. We did see flashes from Marvin Mims last year, but Pat Bryant, you mentioned, Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, and I've even seen Trent Sherfield is getting quite a bit of looks in training camp. So it could be spread out. And with Sutton, yeah, to me, he's like a high wide receiver 3. I mean, you pretty much know what you're getting from him. And again, the top target in this offense. So I think he'll have similar numbers to last year. And the key is, can Bo Nix continue what he did last year and not have defenses adjust to him and then the offense takes a
Yeah.
step back?
Yeah, I agree with that. So right now in drafts, he's going in again. This is underdog, so wide receivers pushed up a little bit, but fifth round, Courtland Sutton. So we're going to talk about some of our value picks. I know that you and I at least like one running back in this range, or maybe two. But we've talked about how there is a significant drop off in talent, or just overall, wide receiver tiers when we're looking at it. In this fifth round, you can kind of see it. You've got Courtland Sutton, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Flowers, Ridley, Travis Hunter, Roma Dunze. So I'm with you. I actually looked and I haven't taken as much of him as I thought I had this season. And it's not me saying that I believe that maybe he's going to have more competition and it's going to be Evan Ingram. Although I am excited for Evan Ingram in this offense, Adam. I have been taking him as one of my, that's a later ish tight end that you can wait on if you miss out on the top five, top six guys. He's still going to be there. So maybe the addition of Evan Ingram poses a threat a little bit. Of course, his target share is going to come down just a bit with him there, but I'm still liking Courtland Sutton. We've talked about Bo Nix and potential, sophomore slumps. I feel like we have to talk about it with every quarterback going into their second season. We've done it with Drake May potentially, although he didn't have this boom season that he could come down on. But Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix are obviously two of the top guys in that conversation of, okay, are these defenses going to figure him out? Are they going to kind of regress a little bit? And I think that's the big question with Denver, but he's still going inside the top 10 quarterbacks, and he's still a top 10 quarterback in our rankings as well. So we still project him to do well.
Yeah, I think Sutton is fine. There's nothing flashy about him. He's not like a guy that you're going out of your way to get. To me, it's just if he kind of falls to you and he's the highest guy on your board. Because if you look at what he did last year, it was basically a career best season. And it wasn't like great. It was, I think, points per
No.
game in PPR is like 22nd. Career high marks and targets, receptions, second most receiving yards and touchdowns. So, and it was really the middle of the season. I think there was a game where he got a zero. It was a prime time game, and then
Ooh.
you started to panic. You're like, oh no. And then that's when he went off. It was a game against the Saints. It was a Thursday night game.
Mm,
Denver put up 33 points. He had no receptions. And
that'll do
then
it.
then the next few weeks, 19, 25.2, 19, 14.8, 29.7, 16.2. So it was a little bit of a slow start. Then he finished strong. But even with that, uh, it was, he still wasn't even in the top 20. So I think that's basically where he's going to be. Like maybe the ceiling is wide receiver 20 in points per game. So
Mhm.
I think that's why you don't see him go higher.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, I'm looking at the projections just for targets overall, 116 for Courtland Sutton. Marvin Mims is still in there with, man, it's really spread out at the bottom
Yeah,
there. So
it's a
that's
problem.
I'm wondering too, like, is this one of the situations where we always talk about, ambiguous backfields and we say which running back's going to be able to step up? It feels like this same conversation with the wide receiver too, at least. You've got Marvin Mims with 61 targets projected, Pat Bryant with 51, Vele with 34, even Troy Franklin's sitting here with 40. I
Yeah.
just, wow, that's really spread out.
I think it looks like that's the way it's going to play out. So it's really Sutton and Evan Ingram in the passing game. And yeah, I don't, Marvin Mims, I don't even know. Like, again, we saw,
Really, your guy
yeah, for
for
betting
betting.
props when they have the lines too low.
Yeah.
I didn't have him in season long. I might have picked him up in a league after what he was doing, but I think that's really the key is like, what is the usage going to be for Mims? We can't just assume that it's going to happen because we've seen this now for a few years, and he's not a big guy either.
Yep.
So I don't know. Like, yeah, if you look at what he did down the stretch and project, you're like, oh yeah, and he's got that speed, but are they going to utilize him enough? Even last year when he went through that stretch, he still wasn't playing a lot of snaps either.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily I'm looking at my exposure again, and it's not I haven't really gone out of my way. The only one I've taken the most of out of that wide receiver two potential group is Pat Bryant. Because rookie comes in, shiny new toy in this offense. But yeah, Marvin Mims, who's kind of been used as more of that part-time player during the 2-year career. It's just I haven't gone out of my Devon Vele, Troy Franklin. Yeah, it's been Pat Bryant for me. And that's about it. And I'm not overly, I'm not targeting him, Adam. I'm just saying, okay, well, if someone does emerge, is this someone where you're trying to take stabs in this wide receiver room just in case, an injury or someone does step up, or are you staying away?
I'm not targeting them. Like I like Mims a little bit more in best ball because at least you don't have to worry about putting him in your lineup for those weeks because if the usage remains the same, then it's just going to be frustrating. So, yeah, I really have. And I have taken Pat Bryant really late, right? No one's really pushing him up. But overall, I think when it comes to redraft, likely not going to have any of these guys. Maybe Bryant in the last round or last couple
Yeah.
rounds, depending on how deep the draft is. But it just seems like they are going to spread it out amongst the other receivers outside of Sutton being the main guy and then Evan Ingram mixing in.
Yeah, I mean, Pat Bryant again, 74th pick overall. And sometimes you look at that and you say, well, they picked him in that range for a reason. So that's why I have my eye on him. If he falls in drafts, like you said, last round draft pick, if you're there. But yeah, we might be looking at a situation for the Broncos, which we never really want. But when you're rotating in 5 different receivers regularly, it's something that we usually for fantasy want to stay away from. So obviously, Courtland Sutton again got his extension, the obvious wide receiver one in this offense. But you said it. I mean, given the fact that he had even less target competition last season, Adam, and he wasn't even able to get a top 24 finish out of Sutton in 2024, yeah, we might not be able to say that he's going to do it this season with a little bit more competition, especially more talking about Evan Ingram, RJ Harvey in the backfield.
That was the other thing too, because they really couldn't run the ball last year. So
Yeah.
you know that they are going to be more focused on running the ball and utilizing the backs in the passing game.
Yeah, and Pat Bryant goes around other guys that I mean, Jalen Wright's in that range where he goes. There's other wide receivers that we kind of look at, maybe on Wandale Robinson, and we say, we want Wandale a little bit more than him. Cedric Tillman in that range. Romeo Dobbs. I mean, they're at least projected to see more volume than some of these other guys. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But that was a big update there for Courtland Sutton. Again, gets the 4-year, $92 million extension for the Denver Broncos. And now we just wait for Terry McLaurin every day, Adam. He gets more and more expensive, but he's back at camp, but
Yeah,
injured.
and he's a
Injured.
little banged up. You know the ankle's bothering
I
him,
would be
but
injured too. I think the ankle injury heals itself overnight once he gets
well,
paid.
the
Don't
ankle
you?
injury prevents fines. So
Yes. Yes,
and
because
once
200,000 I think is what he paid already
yeah,
for missing camp.
once the contract is signed, all of a sudden that ankle's going to be feeling
It's
pretty
gonna
good.
feel a little bit better. All right. Next part up here that I just want to make sure we're going through all the news again. SXM 20 to get 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription at Fantasy Life. We haven't necessarily dove into because I don't know, Adam. No timeline for Kenny Pickett to return. Joe Flacco's getting most of the QB1 reps. I'm just asking if you care about the Browns quarterback situation. Obviously in fantasy, we're not going out of our way to draft any of these 4 quarterbacks. I asked Ian yesterday, I said, do we think that they're really going to carry 4 quarterbacks into the season? And he was on the side of yes. Like we could actually see Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco up there. But does this affect your drafts at all? Are you still, we're going to be talking about tight ends here in a second with David Njoku. Jerry Judy is obviously someone that was just a guy and then had a flash for us in fantasy football that's on the radar. But it's really only those two. We've broken down the running backs, still don't have a big update on Quinshon Judkins. Saw Jerome Ford maybe a little bit banged up yesterday as well. But for the pass catchers, does this quarterback, I'll lightly say competition, does it spark your interest? Are you watching it just to make sure you know who to draft or no?
It matters for those skill position players, especially if you have drafted Jerry Judy already or David Njoku. You figure whoever is going to be back there is going to pass a lot, but it could make or break whether those receivers live up to expectations. We saw it last year with Jerry Judy, the beginning of the year. He was not even on the radar. I mean, you weren't even
Yeah.
considering starting him with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. And then all of a sudden, he was a Pro Bowler in the second half of the season and someone that you were made sure to get into your lineup every week. So, yeah, I think it does matter. I think people were hoping it would be Flacco to start, especially for Njoku and Judy. But even then, like, we saw it last year. He wasn't the same quarterback. This is not the quarterback we saw 2 years ago where he came off the couch and just started blazing it up and hoisting the ball in the air every play. He wasn't as good last year. And, he is 40 years old. So that's people are hoping and thinking like, yeah, he'll be fine if he goes in there. I wouldn't be so sure about that.
I think he'd be the best out of the group to start though, right?
Probably, yeah.
He's gotta be. I mean, the Browns in 2024 were awful I mean, they couldn't get I really this is one where I feel confident saying they couldn't get worse, because, like, you look at points per game, they were 32nd, EPA per dropback, they were 32nd, EPA per rush, 27th points per game against 27th. It was bad. They were points per game, they were scoring 15.2. It was awful. So if you I agree, but I do think that Joe Flacco, like, the best case scenario for fantasy football is Joe Flacco starting in the year 2025 at his, what'd you say, 40,
40.
41, 40-year-old age.
Yeah,
And
that
then
says a lot.
maybe, yeah. And then I don't know what happens from there though. That's been the big question, Adam, is it going to be a situation where if they're not winning games, they with Joe Flacco, they just start to rotate through a Dylan Gabriel or then a Kenny Pickett. I mean, Kenny Pickett has been one where we've talked about, oh, maybe he could make his mark on this team, but again, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury, and when you're already in training camp going through again, I lightly use the term camp battle because this is a pretty gross this is a pretty gross room of quarterbacks, but if you're already missing time there, Stefanski said he doesn't have a timeline for when he's going to be back, but they're saying that he's more day to day. I don't know. Maybe we do see Kenny Pickett eventually. It's just
Well,
a weird situation.
yeah, the more time he misses, though, it's not good because you got to learn the offense and develop the chemistry and timing with the receivers. So the more times he misses, it's not going to be good. And then that would give the edge to Flacco most likely. And then, you know, just play Sanders. That's what I say.
Is that what you say?
Yeah, I
Over
mean
Sanders
you'll
over
get
Gabriel.
attention too. I mean,
You
come
will,
on.
yeah. It's just maybe just play anyone that we're going to be okay with with their pass catchers, because obviously we're talking about these guys, and we mentioned four quarterbacks, and we're not going out of our way in any circumstance, I think, to draft any of them. So it's just one where I can see myself, mid week 8, Adam, and it's getting chillier outside, and we're talking about a waiver wire pickup of Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders. Won't that be so fun?
Oh
Won't you be
yeah, it
excited for
always
that?
is. I'm interested to see how many of them get drafted, if at all, in a super flex league. I got to think one might be taken,
One being Flacco, or one
probably.
being I'm gonna put Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders on my bench and see if
I
they
could
get a
see people
start.
doing that. People are very aggressive in these super flex leagues with quarterbacks. I mean, I've seen some come out of the draft with four, so
Ooh.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone did that.
But do you recommend that though? Because
No,
I'm
I
not
don't.
going into any of my drafts thinking, because I just think that again, it's different if you're in a larger format, or if you've got a lot of bench spots that, yes, maybe some people walk away, but I've been in those formats and I haven't seen them go yet. But those are early drafts, so I don't necessarily recommend it. I feel like they'll be on the waiver wire.
Yeah, more than likely. Again, I could see maybe someone taking one of them to put on the bench as their third quarterback.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Kenny Pickett, though, is one where maybe you should wait because there's no timeline for him to return yet. Joe Flacco getting the most QB1 reps in the year 2025. Could you imagine? You're just sitting on your couch one day a couple years ago, and all of a sudden we're still talking about you? I think that's fun. Go,
That's
Joe.
good for him. I don't know
Yeah,
if
he's
it's
getting
great
paid.
for our fantasy teams, but we'll have to wait and see how much he has left.
We want Joe Flacco from 2 years ago. How's that? We'll
Yeah,
let him
that was
know.
fun.
Yeah, that was a good time, especially for David and Joku. That was a good time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of David and Njoku, though, let's go through some tight ends here. I want to make sure that we're going through tight end tiers. We talked yesterday about the quarterbacks, but tier 3, veteran mid-range tight end ones. I want to talk to you about TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, who we just mentioned, Travis Kelce, and of course, David and Njoku. We're going to go through those names coming up next. Kendall Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right here on this Tuesday morning. If you've got questions, make sure to send them our way at KValenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on X, on Twitter. Any questions about your leagues, or just call in 888-963-2682, the phone number, or press that new call in button on the Sirius XM app, because we are just weeks away, Adam, when we're getting everyone ready to dominate those fantasy drafts. Same with fantasylife.com. Again, we'll always remind you about that code SXM20, gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. We're talking through tight end tiers and what our expectations are for some of these. We already know the top tier. I don't think we have to go through, Adam. Unless you want to, we can talk all good things about George Kittle, about Brock Bowers, about Trey McBride, but you kind of know what you're getting with those top guys. It's the middle tier tight ends that I've got questions about for you. And so when we look at some of these guys, starting with TJ Hawkinson, he's in tier 3. I'm looking through Dwain McFarland's tiers. This article is live at fantasylife.com. he kind of goes through, each player, why they're in this tier, their age grouping, points per game, target percentage, air yard share, all the good stuff that you need to know. But when we look at TJ Hawkinson going right now, round 6, he's coming off the late 2023 torn ACL MCL. I see both sides of this one, Adam, because you look at Hawkinson and you say, well, he didn't find his way into a full-time role until week 12 last season. Now he's fully healthy, averaged 10 points per game, 18% target share from week 12 to the playoffs. But when I look at him, he's just in this range where I'm not going after him. And it's not because I don't believe that maybe he's going to have a better bounce back season. Eighth round actually is where he's going on underdog right now. But I just kind of look, and I know that 2023 was one of his better seasons, but that is when we also have to remember that Justin Jefferson was out with his hamstring strain. So he missed 7 games. And I think 7 games and maybe one, it happened during the game early. So, games with Justin Jefferson injured, he's up to 15.7 points per game for TJ Hawkinson. Games with Justin Jefferson healthy, he goes to 12.9 points per game. But I understand why people could be targeting him. He's just, again, in that range in the 8th round. I'm getting but potentially a Kyler Murray. I'm making sure that I get some of my running backs. Jordan Mason is in that range that I really like to get, especially if I'm going zero RB. But what are your expectations with Hawkinson this season for fantasy?
Yeah, I think he's fine. I have taken him in a couple leagues. I'm fine with him in the 8th round if I need a tight end and there's nothing else great on the board. Because at that point, you might have 5 receivers, 2 running backs, or 4 and 3. Maybe you don't love the quarterbacks on the board, or you can get one that you have highly valued more than others a little bit later in the next round or two. So it really depends what's on the board. I'm open to it, but I do agree the ceiling is low for him.
Yeah.
He could get helped if Jordan Addison does get suspended the beginning of the year. He could get off to a fast start there. We've seen Addison score touchdowns 19 in 32 games. You have Jefferson there. So, like, at best, he might be, I guess at best, he could be the second target in the offense, but probably more the 3, where there will be some down weeks. So, I'm fine with the price. It really depends what my roster has at that point when he's on the board. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm looking for Hawkinson. I want him on my team.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, I have 5 receivers now. So one of them's on the bench, one's a flex. I have my 2 running backs. There's really not a quarterback or a running back I love here. All right, I'll fill my tight end with Hawkinson. That's kind of the way I've been looking at it.
Yeah, and again, when I say I haven't gone out of my way, sometimes it just doesn't fit the builds that I have in some of my drafts, but he's still like he's priced multiple rounds ahead of some other guys that we're going to talk about right now. So I don't want to say he's expensive because we look at the 8th round, but when you compare him to, an Evan Ingram or Travis Kelsey, David Njoku, there are some names where you almost might get the same amount of volume and play. So he does offer a really solid floor, right? And in this Kevin O'Connell offense, you know that he's kind of going to give you mid-range, low-end, tight end one numbers like he has for most of his career. Like I said, 2024 a little bit down because he's coming off his injury, but 9.4 points per game is what I'm looking at. And then of course like I said, his best one 14.7, but that came with a Justin Jefferson injury. So yeah, not going out of my way, but I understand people wanting to potentially target him and like him for a good bounce back season, especially like you said. We have to watch the Justin Jefferson injury right now. We're not overreacting, but just something to pay attention to. Jordan Addison, we're expecting to miss a couple games. I will say though, underdog is where he's actually the cheapest going in the 8th round. So when you look through the ADP tool at fantasylife.com, I actually see him pick 62 on ESPN, pick 59 on Sleeper, and then pick 60 on Yahoo. That's too expensive for me
Yeah,
for TJ Hawkinson. I'll say no every time.
those prices are too expensive because I still feel in that range there are some receivers that you can get because I think right after that, like the 5th, 6th round is when you start to see the drop off at receiver. So especially if you're starting 3 or have 2 flex spots, I want to get the receivers there before that drop off occurs. So if that's the case on
Yeah.
those sites, then I will pass on Hawkinson at that price. The times I've been getting him have been like round 8.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said 8th round, and you can see in that range because I named some of the guys like Darnell Mooney's there, Michael Pittman. You might just Brandon Ayuk, Cooper Cup. You might not like those receivers. In my case, I'm usually looking for more running backs going zero RB. You've got Travis Etienne there, Jordan Mason, who I've drafted the most of in the 8th round, Brian Robinson Jr. So if it fits your build, I understand getting him. But at those prices, and that's why it's so important. We always say this, but it's so important. I'm using the list view for the ADP draft board, but it's so important to check on these other ADPs across different sites because, like I said, ESPN he's going pick 62, Sleeper 59, Yahoo's going at pick 60, and like I said, Underdog is the least expensive that you can get him at pick 87. So all those other ranges, I'm out. I know we talked about the Denver Broncos, Courtland Sutton, Bo Nix, and our expectations. So let's really quickly recap or go through what our expectations are with Evan Ingram because, he averaged 10.8, 13.7, 9.9 points per game with his career when he was in Jacksonville, managed a 25% target share, 24% target share in 2023. You come in again. I think this is a really nice fit for Evan Ingram in this offense. I do think he's going to obviously be taking things away from Courtland Sutton, but I did like this landing spot. I've actually probably of any tight ends in the top 10, I think if I don't get George Kittle, I've been taking a good amount of Evan Ingram this year.
Yeah, it is a good spot. We mentioned how they have a very close group of receivers that are probably all going to cut into each other. And we know Sean Payton was looking for that tight end. So with Ingram, a lot of it comes down to me, the value is in PPR. We've just not seen him score a lot of touchdowns. So he gets a boost in PPR, and it is a new offense. So it is interesting to see how he is incorporated here. And is he second on this team in targets? That would be massive. If he's the guy behind Sutton second in targets, that's really what you want.
Yeah.
If you can get a tight end that's going to be a top 2 in targets on their team, that's really going to help. Because again, if you go look at the final finishes for tight ends, when people say, "Oh, they finished as a tight end 1," it doesn't take much. It's very misleading. If you catch 55 to 60 passes or score 6 or 7 touchdowns, you're essentially a tight end 1. So
Yeah.
the bar is very low. So the question is, how high is the target share going to be in this offense?
And we've got him projected at Fantasy Life for 77 targets. No, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I was
104
going to say that
targets,
was low,
77. No, that
77.
would have been way. I would have called Dwain while we're on the show right now and said, Dwain, why do you not like Evan Ingram? Please help me. But 104 targets, 77 receptions, 700 receiving yards for Evan Ingram potentially this season. But we know that, like, when I look at Ingram and how he's potentially going to be used in this offense, like, he is going to be an underneath option. He's got, I think, for a career of 5.8, if not 6.1 ADOT, average depth of target. So when I see that though, I understand, and Dwayne pointed this out, that does limit his touchdown upside. And that's something that you just have to be okay with, and you have to look at and say, all right, hopefully he runs a little bit more pure, and maybe the connection and chemistry with him and Bo Nix is something that we've been waiting for a little bit. But that is something that is really the big thing that I'm looking at here is okay, if he's really going to be that underneath option with a low A dot, what's the touchdown upside going to look like? But again, from tight ends in the ranges that they're going, Evan Ingram across the board, there's a huge jump. Like he is going 30 picks after Travis Kelsey, same with TJ Hawkinson. So he's going 94, pick 94 on ESPN, 90 on Sleeper, 137 on CBS, and 106 on Underdog. So again, depending on your build, I like the range. I like the 9th round price tag more than, Travis Kelsey, Mark Andrews in that range.
You hate Kelsey, huh?
Do you hate Kelsey?
I
Are
don't
you
hate
back
him,
in?
no.
It's the retirement tour potentially.
They
Is
said
there
he's.
is there a world where we think that Travis Kelsey could just, dupe everyone? We had the, bad season last year for fan, or bad enough, whatever it is. But do you think he could, if they did get more explosive, we could see something different from Travis Kelce? He's in this tier of like this tier 3 veteran mid-range tight end ones.
I guess it's possible if he's like in great shape and just comes in. I do think the Chiefs' offense will be more explosive, but it also is the other guys that are gonna put up most of the stats. Now, look, Kelsey's cheaper than ever, but he's clearly on the decline. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obvious. So Yeah, it's tough. I haven't been able to draft him yet. Again, this is the cheapest price that we've seen. Last year was easy to pass. Round two, round three, it was like a no, easy decision. This year, he's a lot more cheaper. And you wonder, too, okay, is he really going to bounce back? And remember, too, like the other guys on this offense are going to command so attention. If they are able to
For
throw it
sure.
deep and teams have to account for that speed and the deep pass comes back for Mahomes, it'll open up Kelsey in the middle. But again, like, what are the touchdowns going to be for him?
Not a lot. I'll risk it all and say I think 5 is even being generous.
Yeah,
5
it's
touchdowns.
it's crazy though. As bad as he was last year from an efficiency standpoint, he still was seventh in points per game in PPR formats
It's
because
got to
of
be the
all
targets.
all those receptions. Yeah,
Yeah, targets and I mean, we're still that's the thing of why we always keep Travis Kelsey in mind. It's like he just doesn't go away, and it's because you've mentioned it before, but the tight ends, when we get past a certain range, the tight end 7 and tight end 8 are separated by 2 fantasy points.
yeah.
Like it's not this huge difference that we see with the wide receivers, the running backs in some of those top tiers. So for me, I'm not going to say no. I'll say no on ESPN. I know where I'm not going to draft him, and it's ESPN. He's
Why?
going
What's
pick
what's his ADP there?
65. 65.
65.
Yes.
That's
There's no chance.
insane.
60, even on sleeper at pick 76, I'm a little bit out. 98 on underdog. I have 0% exposure to him. And it's someone where I'm going to, based on how many leagues we do at him, I'll probably draft him once or twice just in case there is this resurgence. But the thing that keeps us always in on him is we're projecting him for 115 targets. You can't necessarily turn away from him when we're looking at, those potential targets with 84 receptions. That's
That
huge.
that's the biggest problem is when you see that volume and you're projected. You're like, well, this is where he ranks. But the difficult part for me is he's a year older and just seeing the decline. I mean, we've seen him go from 1338 yards to 984 to 823. The yards per reception, 12.2, 10.6, 8.5. Like everything has gone down. The touchdowns, 12, 5, and 3. The yards per target, 8.8, 8.1, 6.2. So everything has gone down. So you are banking on just him being rejuvenated and the other guys taking attention from the defense, opening up the middle for him just to get easy catches and be open, which is possible, but it's difficult for me to see him being. I guess I don't even know if he could be similar to last year because we talked about it. The targets, if you go look at his season last year, you could say, oh, it was the beginning of the season. He started slow. When Rice was on the field and it was only 3 games, he was barely involved in the offense. And then
Hmm.
they had so many injuries that they were forced to get him the ball. It's like, okay, well, we have no receivers left. Well, this guy, Travis Kelsey's here. All right, we'll get him 10 to 12 targets a game. And that's what happened.
Yeah, the start was, I mean, it was 4 targets, 3, 5, and then it jumped 9, 10, 5, 12, 16.
Yeah, it
But
was as
it
soon
was
as Rice went down. Now,
yes.
we
But
understand. Yes,
Rice is going to be out potentially. We
but
still don't
also
know.
Xavier Worthy wasn't at developed
That's
at that
true.
point. He was a
He did not
rookie.
have a full-time role
Right. So if
until
Worthy
the
takes
later
on that
half.
Rice role and
Hmm.
Hollywood Brown wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
So and the running game you would hope would be better if Pacheco is
You would
fully
hope.
healthy.
When Worthy took over that full-time role, that was week 14 that we've talked about. Kelsey's targets fell to 22%.
Yeah. So that's the issue. So you have the risk of them being fully healthy when everyone's on the field, cutting down his targets, and Kelsey still not being what he was.
That's why I say he's a tough click. It's almost a no for me on ESPN. I can say that right now. Ninth, 10th round, I'll think about it. But again, you have there's so many tight ends going in that range. I count 6 right now between the ninth and 10th round on underdog. It's going to be different depending on what platform you're drafting at. But yeah, but would we be shocked at him if we're sitting here, doing our recap and just saying, Travis Kelsey finished the career strong? No.
And honestly, it would not be a surprise. Like I
Yeah.
just kind of don't doubt anything with him and the Chiefs. And we did see a few big games from him last year. Uh, so the only reason why there's hesitation is because the targets, the offense, if it bounces back, and the price. It's really the price where
It's the
you have
price.
to at least contemplate it, right? Because seventh tight end off the board often. And again, if you get him in round 9, you mentioned the ADPs on some of those other sites. That's just way too high. Like there, I'm not even considering. When you're
No.
talking 60 to 75 range, no, I don't want.
They're looking at the name and they're saying Travis
Yeah,
Kelce, maybe this is it, which is fine, but we're not going to be doing it. So again, the tight end tiers at fantasylife.com. Make sure you go and check them out. Same with our projections. If you're curious about just what we're looking at for potential targets, potential receptions for these guys, those are all live as well. We're going to keep going, and I want to talk about value picks by round. I originally was like favorite picks by round, but you already know I would talk about Camp Scattaboo the whole time, Adam. So let's do value picks and where we could get some value from rounds 4+. We're going to give you those names coming up next. This episode is presented in part by Yahoo Fantasy. Fire up the group chats, guys. Get those draft boards ready and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, overreactions, and so much more. You already know it's all happening with Yahoo Fantasy. This year, Adam and I with SiriusXM are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first timer or that veteran making your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and of course, more ways to win. It all begins on August 4th, so make sure you stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League today at yahoofantasy.com/fantasylife. That's yahoofantasy.com/fantasylife. Yeah, fantasy football is life. This is fantasy life. Kendall Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right here at K Valenzuela 17 at Adam Ronis over there on X on Twitter. If you got any questions for us at all, make sure you send them our way, especially if you can't get on the phones. 888-963-2682, the phone number to call in. Adam, we're going through value picks by round, and guys we like, guys who we're targeting, maybe even thinking that they could be a value and definitely outperform, or hopefully, maybe not definitely, but hopefully outperform their ADP. I'll just mention him since we were talking about tight ends and just our expectations. I'll say George Kittle. He's going to end up being may definitely my most rostered tight end. Playing without Debo Samuel, probably playing without Brandon Ayuk. We talked about the targets before. I like the range that he's going in. Even he's expensive, but if you're building your team based off getting an elite tight end like Kittle, McBride, Bowers, I'm good with paying, the price tag. He's going pick 37, pick 38 on Sleeper and ESPN. I'm good with it. I think he's a value right now. I'm surprised he hasn't on at least on Underdog. He hasn't moved past the 4th round yet. He might over these next couple weeks, but I like him still.
yeah, it's certainly possible. It was more fun when you could get him in round 5, like a month or two ago, and he's just kept moving up as people start to realize that maybe this could be a career high. Well, not career high, but finally get over 100 targets, be more featured in the offense with the receivers and the inexperience there. Ricky Pearsall is back from that hamstring injury, so that's good.
Yep.
Jawan Jennings dealing with a calf issue, so that's something to keep an eye on. But the problem with Kittle has always been he's just not featured enough. Like he'll have a big week or two, but it was a lot of Debo, Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and of course Christian McCaffrey as well in the passing game because Kittle is one of the most efficient tight ends. I mean, he was as good as seasons as Brock Bowers and Trey McBride had last year. Kittle was number 1 in points per game in PPR formats, and he did it on only 94 targets. So, 78 receptions, the most he's had since 2019. So all you just need is him to be featured more on the offense. He would be easily the number 1 tight end if he had 110, 115 targets
Oh
based
yeah.
on the efficiency that he has shown us. So, and he's really good after the catch. He gets open, breaks these long plays. So, yeah, he had his best catch rate last year too, 83%. That is just
That's
insane,
crazy.
right?
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Over the last 2 seasons, you look at the A dot 9.9, 8.9. We've talked about him as a target earner. We know who George Kittle is. Then you get downfield, you lock the touchdown upside with him as well. And I'm just looking at some of the injuries, especially with Brandon Ayuk dealing with his. It just feels every single week we get closer to the season out of it feels like maybe Brandon Ayuk does start the year on pup and misses the first 4 games, which would be big. We don't want injuries, but that means it's that next man up mentality. Juwan Jennings, hopefully is going to be good. Ricky Pearsall, like you said, is back in practice. So it just I he's just my favorite early round tight end to target in 2025. And I know, yeah, I'm not going to argue with someone who says, oh, I like, Brock Bowers better in the second. I like Trey McBride in the third. Just for me and the way that I build my teams, the fourth round allows me to get, one solid. If you want a running back, you get one solid running back in the first two rounds. You're able to come back with two elite receivers and then keep building off that with George Kittle in the fourth. So that's where I like it. I like that range a lot. We've got more names that I want to talk about, especially round 7 plus. I've got some. I want to talk about Jacoby Myers. Maybe if we should be looking even more at a Mecca Egbuka. We're going to talk about more value picks by round coming up here next. Talking through value picks by round right here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM, Fantasy Sports Radio. Adam, should I say, dare we say Tank Bigsby a value pick? Are you targeting anyone in this backfield for the Jaguars? Is it gonna be a three-headed monster? I want to be able to say like, hey, this is this running back is a value because he's going in the 13th round. We're getting the news that he is shining even before the pads come on, all this stuff. But it is really hard to decipher what we want to believe and what we don't with a backfield that, could be this three-headed monster with Tank Bigsby, with Travis Etienne. They draft Bashal Tutin. I just want to figure it out. And the answer could just be no. Maybe there's no value here, but when we look at the cheapest option, I do believe it is Tank Bigsby in the 13th round over on Underdog. Different across different platforms, but he is the last one to go.
Yeah, you're hearing that he's involved with the first team, but again, wouldn't overrate it this time of year. I think sometimes coaches want to mix it up and give guys an opportunity. There will be value, I think, out of this backfield if this Liam Cohen offense hits. We saw the pass catching running backs excel in the offense. So I still haven't given up on ETN because
Okay.
last year he had a bad year, but we saw what he did 2 years ago. And he's a pass catching back, right? That's the guy who fits. We haven't seen Bigsby catch a lot of passes. So I think it's still something to keep an eye on. I know we're going to see Bigsby move up now because he's been getting a lot of the training camp hype, but I still wouldn't rule out Travis Etienne just yet.
ETN isn't he's not expensive either. He's going in the 8th round on Underdog. I can look where he's going across
Yeah, it feels like he's going
different
later in other formats.
platforms. He has, I mean, I would assume that he has to be, right? Because of, he burned drafters last season. So pick 125 over on ESPN. I don't know, he's actually sleeper. He's even more expensive. Pick 88. Underdog,
Mhm.
he's pick 94, and then Yahoo, he's pick 109.
Yeah, I think if you're going to get him over 100, I'm going to take that chance. I mean, this is a guy that
Yeah.
2 years ago had 73 targets, 58 receptions. So yeah, I'd take the shot. But yeah, you do want to see what evolves here in training camp because you've seen so much Tank Bigsby talk over the last day
For
or
sure.
two. Like it was all over yesterday.
But these are the backfields that we do want to try and just take shots at.
Hmm.
Depending, if you're not doing as many drafts, then I could see you, not wanting to take that risk. But that's what we always try and risk, Adam, and why is because if you're hitting on someone that's going, let's say, for this conversation that it is Tank Bigsby who's going in the 13th round, he's going to be a difference maker on your team, and he's going to outperform that ADP, and that's why these backfields where we just have some of these question marks with them, with the I don't know, another one is the Dallas Cowboys right now, where we're kind of just waiting to see who could emerge. But that's why we always try and go for them, the big question marks, because if you are taking a shot on some of these guys, it could work out in your favor towards the end.
Yeah, and I do think you could get something of value in this backfield for sure. If again with Liam Cohen and those running backs in that Tampa offense catching passes, so that's what you're looking for. But right now, you're seeing all the buzz on Bigsby, and we'll see if he rises
We'll
in price.
see.
My guess is he will. You'll start to see
Oh,
him increase because that's all you're seeing the last day or two is how good he's looked.
yeah, 1,000%.
But you know
It's
how quickly that could change. ETN could go out there have a big day today and look better.
exactly.
So that's why you can't overreact to this stuff. It's still early in training camp.
You feel the same way. One more name that I just want to throw out because I've been thinking about him over the last couple of days. But J.K. Dobbins going in the 9th round, is he someone where you actually do think they brought him in? It's never good for a rookie. But do you think that you could have some value there with a 9th round pick of J.K. Dobbins?
You can, yeah. I do
Okay.
prefer RJ Harvey, and
Yeah,
at
more
least his.
expensive.
I was worried his price was going to be insane at this point, but it's tempered off probably because of the presence of J.K. Dobbins. But I prefer Harvey, but Dobbins in round 9. If I need a running back, that could be my third running back.
Yeah.
I'd take a chance. I mean, look, he looked really good last year when he was healthy, and we know this Denver offense wants to run the ball more. They just didn't have the talent last year.
Yeah, and it's I'm with you. I've taken some RJ Harvey, a good amount actually, and I'm happy with, people maybe laying off him a little bit in drafts, so I'm picking him up whenever I can. But J.K. Dobbins, yeah, he wasn't bad last season. We'll just have to see how long that he can last in this Broncos offense. We're going to continue on. It is our favorite time of the day. Time for that fantasy life water cooler here coming up next. It is our favorite time of the day. Time for that fantasy life water cooler right here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you on this Tuesday. And as always, fantasylife.com is where you can go to dominate your leagues. We've got tier 1, tier 2 pricing this season, and we've got that code SXM20 gets you 20% off any of those tier 1 or tier 2 prices. We talk about the tools, we talk about, the ADP grid, the projections during the season. We've got, the waiver wire tool, we've got the trade analyzer, start sit tool. Everything is there that you might need and want to continue dominating your drafts. So make sure you head over there, fantasylife.com. Upgrades to the utilization suite. We'll be talking with Dwain McFarland here, I think, shortly this week about all those. So it's a good time to be over at fantasylife.com. SXM20 gets you 20% off either tier 1 or tier 2 subscriptions. You ready to go, Adam? Have you seen? Hey, wait. Have you gone to the movies lately?
I
The last
have
couple of weeks, you've actually said yes, and then you hadn't gone in years, and now all of a sudden you're going to the movies.
Well, I
Crazy.
did go to see like movies that come
The
out
good.
like 4 or 5 months from now. So I went on Wednesday and
Ah.
unfortunately got there a little too late, so I couldn't get in.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Too late. What? You didn't.
No, I just got there a little bit late. I should have left a little earlier, and the
Ah, that's the
line was
worst.
insane.
Oh, really?
Insane.
Oh,
They
that
had
sucks.
370 people in there.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, you can go see. There's the Fantastic Four movie. You're gonna go see that?
Eh, I
All
don't know.
right. Probably not.
When
I'll
are
take
you
that as a
going? When are
no.
you going outside?
Nothing. I haven't. Well, I don't know. I need to schedule some. I need to touch some grass really bad. I gotta go for a walk or something. It's just
So
one of
you
those, and it's
you
beautiful here.
literally
It's
could
like
stay
82
like
degrees.
inside 2, 3 days straight without going outside.
No, okay, not 2 or 3 days
Okay,
straight,
that's
but
what I was sensing.
no, maybe.
Yeah,
Now that I
it's
think
a.
about it, I'm like, during the season, definitely, because sometimes we get so, everyone gets busy. So you're just
I
like,
understand that we all do, but at some point you do have
I
to
know,
like
I
step
know.
outside for a walk or something.
You're right. You're right.
Get some
I need to be
air.
better about it. I'll go try and see a movie. Not Fantastic Four, but nothing against Fantastic. I just don't like, yeah, I don't
What do
know.
you want to see? Is there anything good?
I don't think there's anything good out right now. Is
Okay.
there? Besides that movie. Don't come for me, movie critics. I'm sorry. I'll look at the list and see what's going on. Anyways, I had to ask if you were going to the movies. I don't know why. It just popped into my head. Fantasylife.com. We're here at the water cooler. We're taking your phone calls. 888-963-2682, the phone number to call in, or you can press that new call in button on the SiriusXM app. You can send us a message as well at KValenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on X on Twitter. We mentioned this yesterday, but since we are talking about tight end tiers and our expectations for them for the 2025 season, just did want to mention that Jake Ferguson signed a 4-year extension with the Cowboys. I think we talked about it because we said, well, Micah Parsons just going to continue waiting for his new contract. But the Cowboys announced that it's a $52 million deal worth $30 million in guaranteed money. He was in the final year of that rookie deal that he signed after being drafted in the 4th round. So when we talk about Ferguson, to me, Adam, that's more, a tier 5 kind of player, a tight end 2, if you want to look at him. I think he lost a little bit of appeal with George Pickens coming to town, but he still is going to be the number 3 option for the Cowboys and for Dak Prescott. So I still think, mid-range tight end 2 is a good place to have him. We have him projected for a tight end 15 finish in fantasy this season. So not someone I'm overly excited about, but I can understand it.
Yeah, he's probably one of those guys that you'll take with another tight end if you miss out on like the top 10 and you're trying to figure out the position. Maybe you miss out, and then you're like, "Oh, I gotta find an option." And you take two, and you hope that one of them pans out the first few weeks of the season. We've seen Ferguson be targeted by Dak Prescott when
Yeah.
he's healthy. Last year was disappointing. 2 years ago, 71 catches, 761, and 5 touchdowns. So you would love that. I don't know if that is repeatable with Pickens there, but if this offense does have to pass a lot and the defense is disappointing and gives up a lot of points, they could be involved in a lot of shootouts, and that would certainly help Ferguson from a fantasy perspective. So, yeah, I'm fine with him pairing him with someone else. Like if I don't get one of the top 12, especially in a league with 20 roster spots. I mean, if I'm in a league with 20 roster spots, I'm usually taking two tight ends, even if I get an elite one, because you have more bench space to have it a second tight end.
Yeah.
In a league with 16 roster spots where you only have 6 bench spots, I think it's more difficult, especially as you get into the bye weeks and as the injuries pile up. Because we've all been there. You're good. You might have two guys who are injured taking up bench spots. Then you have the bye weeks, and it's really difficult to hold a second quarterback and a second tight end. But what you hope is by the time you get to that point, one of the tight ends you drafted, if you happen to be in that spot to draft two, one of them emerges as your every week starter. But we know the volatility of the position, and
Yeah.
you might think you have that guy in week one. He has a good game. You're like, all right, here's my guy. Week two, 2 catches for 24 yards. You're like, okay, I guess I don't have him. And then you're
Like,
playing
never
that
mind.
game. So
Yeah.
that's why it certainly helps to get that stable tight end. But we saw last year the tight ends that you took early didn't pan out. Like Sam Laporta, yeah, he finished the season strong, but if you took him early last year, you were really disappointed at the beginning of the season. Same thing, even Mark Andrews to an extent. He had those two
Yeah.
zeros, and he started slowly. And who was the other guy? Oh, and Dalton Kincaid. Oh boy,
That
yeah,
was bad. He
because that was a guy who was going in the
burned a
fifth,
lot of
sixth round.
people. Yep. Fifth round for sure. That's why, when we look at the projections and stuff, it's always interesting because you look at Brock Bowers projected for like 190, but then, and that's obviously tight end one, but you get down to, the tight end 10 and it's 119 fantasy points. So I'm with you. I usually like to, if I'm punting the tight end position and I'm getting, let's say, since we're talking about Jake Ferguson, or maybe even a little bit later, if Jake Ferguson is someone that I go and get, I make sure to walk away with two just in case. On underdog, it's a little bit different. I'll usually walk away with 2 to 3, depending on who I get, but that's especially if I don't get one of the more elite, George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride's. And then, you just have to let him go if you get those injuries or if something happens, or if it's, a Mark Andrews situation, if it's a Dalton Kincaid situation, you just have to let him go, unfortunately. But they're a lot easier to do than spending another draft pick elsewhere. So it's good.
Yeah, again, if you're gonna take that early tight end, you better hope it pans out because it really ruins your team if it doesn't.
Oh,
If you're
for sure.
taking a tight
There's
end,
risk.
yeah, if you take a tight end in the first 5 rounds and they don't work out, it really brings your team down because now you're searching for that tight end off the waiver wire, which can be very difficult to get.
Yeah, it's one that doesn't usually, I mean, sometimes it happens, but again, Adam, it's just like the same thing last season where people thought, week one it was going to be Isaiah Likely, and you go out and spend all that fab, and it's just such a, you said it, it's volatile, it's an up and down kind of situation with these tight ends. I can see, waiver wire articles that I remember that I wrote where it's like, okay, maybe it could be Gasecki this week, and maybe it could be Kyle Pitts one week. If we get the Kyle Pitts weeks, it's going to be amazing. But it's just one of those things where you just have to start streaming at that point if your elite tight end just doesn't work out, the one that you took in the first 5 rounds, and that's where it gets really difficult the rest of the way.
Yeah, and looking at it last year, there weren't really a lot of answers on the waiver wire last year. I guess John Smith was probably
Janu,
the
Cade for
yeah,
for a
it
stretch.
was only like 3 weeks. I think it
Mhm.
was with Evans out, so that's why. And then after that, he came back to earth, and you couldn't use him. I mean, Zach Ertz had, I guess, some stretches too where he probably wasn't, but it really wasn't great off the waiver wire last year, unless you were patching it up. Like Gasecki had a couple big weeks, but it was tough.
No,
If
it's always difficult.
you needed to have the Bowers, McBride, Kittle. I mean, I'm sure many of those teams are the ones that did the best. I know I guess the best team I had Trey McBride on it. So no coincidence.
Yeah, one of the best teams I had George Kittle. A
Yeah,
few
like
of the best teams I had, and it was
usually
amazing.
if you have one of those top tight ends, it would take a lot for you not to do well. You'd have to ruin the rest of your team.
Do you worry about any of those 3 being the Sam Laporta this year? Not to put that out into the universe, but if there was one, Brock Bowers goes in the second, Trey McBride goes in the third, George Kittle goes in the
If
fourth.
if you had to pick one, I think it would have to be Brock Bowers, right?
I was just gonna
New
say it because
quarterback.
I look at Trey McBride and I say he was able to do that with 2 touchdowns last season, and I just expect that positive touchdown regression could come, but yeah, Brock, maybe? It could just be none, and that would be the best case scenario, but we always talk about, risk, and it does feel like it could be Brock.
I didn't take Laporta last year. I thought it was easy to see with Laporta though, right? Like it was easy to see like he wasn't going to repeat those touchdowns. He was also in an offense where you had so many other guys. So,
Yeah.
look, he had 7 touchdowns. He went from 10 to 7, but also like 120 targets his rookie year, down to 83. He was banged up at a certain point in the season. So, but you're taking a guy in an offense where he was at best third, maybe because you knew Jamison Williams was going to come on. You knew
Yes.
Gibbs and the running backs were going to be catching passes as well. So I thought it was pretty easy to fade Laporta last year. I can't say the same about these top 3 tight
Any
ends.
of
I don't
them.
think it's easy. But that said, I don't have any Bowers or McBride. Like McBride, I'm thinking about like if he's there in round 3, like early round 3, I would consider it.
But it's not you not taking them. It's just because of the way you usually build your teams. We're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
actively looking at them and saying, "Ah, we don't like Brock." Because I agree with you. This could
It's
be
the
the season where
price.
we just don't have someone that is a tight end bust in the first 5 rounds. But it's always something to look at. But we're not. It's the same thing that I say. I don't. George Kittle, I like in the fourth. If he slides into the third, then it's something where I might just not be taking him as much because of just the way that I build my teams. But it's the same for you. You don't usually build that way.
No, like last year when I think McBride was round 5 where I
He
took him.
was, and it was
So
beautiful every time.
yeah, I wish that would happen again,
I did
but
too.
it's not going to happen this year.
I don't think we can nitpick Bowers, McBride, or George Kittle. I think the only thing with Bowers, but I still like him with Gino, and I like the connection. We've heard that they have a very strong connection right now at training camp. I think the only thing that you can look at is that he had a 6.6 average depth of target. But again, Gino is a quarterback upgrade in this offense, so I like it for Las Vegas.
You could
Hopefully,
also say the touchdowns could increase for Bowers. He had 5
yeah,
last year.
exactly. I just think that Gino and Pete Carroll are a good duo, and they're going to be. I think he's going to do well in this offense. I'm actually excited to watch him. It's a tough division, so obviously we're not saying that they're going to go out and win 10 games. There's no chance, or there could be a chance, but in my opinion, they're not going to do it. So it's just something to watch out for and something to look at. Continuing on here, and again, 888-963-2682, the phone number to call in. Since we can continue talking about tight ends, but I did want to mention that Dalton Kincaid did not practice on Monday due to knee soreness. I haven't seen an update this morning yet, Adam, but I know we talked a little bit about Dalton Kincaid and maybe expectations that could happen in this offense. We've said that they're probably going to spread the ball around. Is he someone that you've been looking at as a late round, tight end ad, or not necessarily? No.
I have just because he's cheap. And yes, he burned me badly last year in a few leagues. But the price dropped. So you could essentially get him as your tight end too. But this is just not good news here. Now, I don't want to overreact. That's what people do with training camp news, right? But it is alarming for Kincaid because he had the knee issue. But
Yes.
I'm seeing he's running routes today. Okay,
Oh,
there
so
we
he's
go. He's
good.
fine.
That's why we
No,
like to update.
but
Don't worry about it.
uh, he didn't have any procedure, right, from last year?
Not that I
No,
remember,
I don't
no.
think he did.
I can look it up.
And he had that PCL sprain. So the fact that he's back already, because again, you're going to always be cautious at this time of the year. So I think it is a good sign that he's back. But you do have them spreading the ball around. And clearly, though, he wasn't healthy last year and he tried to play through the injury. So
Yes.
that's why I look at that. I go, okay, because he had a good rookie year, right? We saw a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
We saw a lot of ability from him. in that rookie year. So 91 targets that year, 73 catches, and then boy,
That's nice.
it really fell off. So yeah, because of the price, I'm open to taking him, especially with another tight end, and you'll probably know early whether it's going to work. And that's the other thing too. If you do take the two tight ends, you can kind of discover hopefully quickly which one is going to pan out and which one isn't, and then move on. The best case scenario would be both hit, but it's the tight end
That'd be
position.
nice.
The likelihood is
That never
not going
happens.
to happen.
We can't now. We can't have
There
that
was
many nice things
one year
happen
it
to
did for
us.
me. It was a
Oh,
long
who?
time ago. It was a non PPR league. That's how long ago it was. I hated playing in that league where I drafted Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski in the same
Oh,
year. But it was a
nice.
headache because there was no flex spot and I could start one every week, and trying to decide who to start was a nightmare, and I could not work out a trade. Because I think what happens is people see the situation you're in. They go, "Oh, he needs to make a trade. I'm not going to give him anything good," and
It's
then
the
they lowball
worst.
you. So if you're in that situation, though, you're better off just keeping both, not to help someone else.
Yeah, I agree. I hate when that happens. That actually is one of it's I understand why we do it, but it's a huge pet peeve of mine. But to finish out the Dalton Kincaid conversation, we've got him projected 88 targets, 61 and a half receptions this season. And there's also the other argument, Adam, that we've talked about the Bills, pecking order in terms of targets. And besides Khalil Shakir, if Keon Coleman doesn't step up into that, it is technically wide open. So we know this offense isn't necessarily great when we talk about them spreading the ball around and everything. But Kincaid potentially, being your week one starter, I don't hate the potential there that he brings for you in this 2025 season. All right, we're going to continue on here. The phone number I gave out. We're going to go to the phone lines now. Let's go out to Brian in Savannah. Brian, what do you got for us?
Hey, well, off the tight end topic, I have the first pick in my draft, but I have Lad McConkey as a keeper. So I know
Mhm.
Jamar Chase is like the consensus number one, but do I bypass him since I already got McConkey and go with one of the studs, or should I just go ahead and go with Chase and build up my wide receiver room?
That's a
Um,
good. Yeah, no, it's a good question. But first pick, when you have Lad McConkey, Adam, does that change how you're drafting with the 101 at all in a keeper league?
It does not change it for me. I still would take Chase if you wanted to get an elite running back. I'm fine with it, but I would go Jamar Chase. I'm assuming you have at least two receivers in a flex spot, so you can easily get him in your lineup. And we've seen what Chase can do with Joe Burrow, and we figure that the defense is going to be bad again, and they're going to be pass heavy, and Chase is just so explosive. So no, it doesn't change at all. It's one keeper. It's you could start. How many drafts do you start two wide receivers? I have no problem doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
and
a good
I
good
guess
problem
the
to
only
have.
thing is if you look at the way the draft projects. Now, I'm assuming it's one keeper, so you'd have to know who people are keeping. Maybe you go, well, I don't like the running backs on the way back, and you want to go to running back. Fine, but in general, I'm gonna just go Chase, start with the two receivers, and I'll figure out running back after.
I can't give up 158 projected targets. I just can't. So that's why I'm with you. I like Jamar Chase there. And as I understand the question as well, because maybe you can get someone else there or you wait around because you do have Lad McConkey, who is a great keeper. But yeah, I'd like Jamar Chase. Bijan, I guess, if you don't have strong running backs at him, but even then,
Yeah,
158 targets is just too good to pass up.
if you were adamant about not going Chase, then Bijan Robinson would be my pick.
Yep, I agree with you. At K Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there on X on Twitter. Appreciate you calling in, Brian. Appreciate everyone using those phone lines 888-963-2682. We'll continue to keep taking your phone calls here. We're going to be talking with Paul Charchian here coming up next. Dominate your fantasy football leagues. Dominate your guillotine leagues with Paul Charchian joining us now. Paul, we're going to be talking about running backs we're a little bit worried about in drafts and getting everyone ready for their guillotine league drafts. How you doing? Welcome in.
Good morning. Nice to talk to everybody. I'm really excited to be here. Guillotine season heating up, of course. GuillotineLeagues.com, where you can play for free, public leagues and private leagues. And if you haven't tried the format, of course, Guillotine Leagues, hot, new, fresh way to play. Most fun way to play season long fantasy football, period.
Yeah, it's the best time, and I was beating Adam every single time last season. I'll
What?
continue to do it again.
No.
It's going to be good, Paul. It's because I'm reading your articles at fantasylife.com. Again, Guillotine, you can see the Guillotine drop down, but you've got your rankings, we've got tools, we've got all the analysis, and that's why we're talking about guys that we're maybe fading or being careful about, more specifically running backs, Paul, and why we're feeling that way. So I can start things off because we talked about the latest news with Joe Mixon yesterday,
Yeah.
which Paul is just not good in general, because he was good for a stretch at the beginning for fantasy managers last season, but then fell off during the fantasy regular season playoffs instead of guillotine leagues. But what are you looking at with him? Are you staying away because of this injury?
Yeah, the ankle injury. And Mixon was already on my radar as a guy I was nervous about because of the way he tailed off last year. Kendall,
Yeah.
you alluded to this. He was good early and then just ran out of gas over the final 6 games of last year. He drooped all the way down to 29th in rushing yards, 31st in yards per carry, 25th in avoided tackle rate. He's got such, he's been so heavily used throughout his career. I think I want to get out one season too early on Joe
Yeah.
Mixon rather than one season too late. But the current injury is really the biggest thing. We've talked about it many times, the three of us. You're playing for September in a guillotine league. You don't want to get chopped in September. And with 18 teams in many guillotine leagues, you don't have the luxury of just housing a guy that isn't going to be able to help you for a while. He's
Yep.
so dangerous right now. And so whether it's Joe Mixon or Chris Godwin or Brandon Ayuk, guys entering the season looking like they're not going to play through much or all of September, you just can't draft them. I mean, I guess there's eventually a price where you would, but even with the discount that's being built into the ADP for Joe Mixon and others like him, guys, we have to stay alive in September. And if they can't help you stay alive in September, they don't belong on your team.
Agree.
Speaking of a discount, there really isn't one anymore on Christian McCaffrey. He is rising up draft boards. I see him go earlier and earlier. Some people making the case for him to go as the first, second, third running back off the board. We know last year was a disaster. What's your outlook for him this year in guillotine leagues?
Well, and again, this is also a very guillotine specific conversation. In a guillotine league, we're drafting for safety. We want reliable players week in and week out. Christian McCaffrey is probably exactly the right kind of person in a typical league where you need to be the best out of 12 teams. You need to get some breaks. You need things to sort of, hit your ways so that you take some chances and they pay off. But that's not what I need in a guillotine league where I can win by finishing second to last every single week. I don't need tip of the spear performances. I need consistent performances. And of course, as you and your listeners know, Christian McCaffrey missed massive swaths of the 2020 season, the 2021 season, and the 2024 season. Last year, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, right in this very time slot, he was the most chopped player in guillotine leagues last year, Christian McCaffrey, across the entire season. And that's even when we knew there were stretches where Christian McCaffrey wasn't playing, but he was eating up a roster spot on teams, and those teams were getting cut. So, he's only 28, but he's got 1,900 touches. I mean, this is a young man's game. There's plenty of danger that you already know is built into Christian McCaffrey. So I've got him outside of the first round in guillotine leagues, but I know in regular leagues, he's surging up towards, the first overall pick.
Yeah, he's going pick 7 right now, I want to say, Paul, and
Mhm.
just regular, which is crazy because we were talking about him at the 1-2 turn months ago. We
Yeah.
knew that Christian McCaffrey, though, was going to rise up draft boards just because people look at the name, they say it's going to be better, and we understand it. What do you think, Paul? And again, we're talking with Paul Charchian here, director of Guillotine Leagues. Make sure to go to guillotineleagues.com. Give him a follow, too, at Paul Charchian over there on X. James Cook. What are your expectations with James
Yeah.
Cook? Is it more regression, like looking at it as regression, Paul, or is it other things that maybe you're worried about the contract situation? What are you looking at for him that you're a little bit worried?
Regression is certainly part of it. Remember, we're at this time last year, James Cook was coming off a 2 rushing touchdown season and
Yep.
a 6 touchdown season in total. He had 4 receptions. Then last year exploded to 18 touchdowns. Obviously, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But here's the thing about him in Guillotine League specifically. Receptions are so important and such a key safety net for full PPR Guillotine Leagues, which all of them at guillotineleagues.com are full PPR. And Cook's receptions went down noticeably last year in his first season with offensive coordinator Joe Brady. He caught just 32 passes for 258 yards. That was a sizable drop from the previous season before Joe Brady was there. That PPR safety net really important in Guillotine because, guys like even Austin Eckler, who we refer to a lot for Guillotine because he's so uniquely good in Guillotine. Man, if you can just get like 4 catches and 35 yards, that helps so much with you not getting chopped in your Guillotine League because there's 7 free points right there. So James Cook at his ADP is not somebody I'm interested in. Of course, I still like James Cook. I would take him at the right price, but not where he's going right now.
How about Aaron Jones? We know Jordan Mason was brought in, and we're keeping reports that it's going to be more of a split than people think with Jones coming off such a massive workload.
And Adam, I'm doing the reporting on that.
Yeah, I know.
It's Paul, the insider.
This is something we've talked about before. We've talked about how much we like Jordan Mason. Well, unfortunately, if we like Jordan Mason a lot, that means there's going to be a negative effect for Aaron Jones, who still a good player, still going to be guillotine viable because he can catch. And we were just talking about that moments ago, the importance of catching with James Cook. And I do think he's going to help us that way. But just where he's being drafted right now, Aaron Jones feels a little rich for a guy who is not going to get goal line carries, is not going to be able to help you with, the periodic free 6 points you're going to get at the goal line. Aaron Jones could be sitting on a 4 touchdown season, 5 touchdown season. And then if he doesn't happen to catch many passes, he's going to have some dud games mixed in there that we did not see last year from Aaron Jones.
And again, Paul Charchian here, director of Guillotine Leagues. Make sure you go and check it out, guillotineleagues.com. Amazing upgrades over there. You can download the app as well for iPhone. And the last one we have to talk about here, Paul, when we're looking at running backs that maybe we're worried about in drafts for Guillotine Leagues, it's Jaylen Warren. Don't tell Ian Hartitz. Hopefully Ian isn't listening because he'll be so sad. But it is different from just regular, when we're talking about regular fantasy and Guillotine Leagues. Why are you looking at him and being a little bit worried?
So, and Ian and I, we just did a Fantasy Life show about this about a week ago, and he and I are just in a different place on rookie Caleb Johnson. I see a kid who was the entire offense for Iowa. They had no passing game. Every opponent knew that Caleb Johnson was going to get all of the work, and it didn't matter. Caleb Johnson was still uber effective, and he drops into a spot where he figures to get a lot of work, including at the goal line. Last year, he piled up 240 carries, 1,500 yards, 23 touchdowns at Iowa. And Jaylen Warren's just never been a workhorse guy. And I don't think he moves into a workhorse role. And he's being drafted in a spot where Jaylen Warren looks like he looks like people are going to be counting on him to get an uptick in work that I don't necessarily think is going to be there, even with Najee Harris gone. I've got him ranked about one round below where he is being taken right now for Guillotine League use.
And this is always why it's so funny, Charch, because we, Adam and I were just having a whole segment conversation about, these backfields, and it's a 1A, 1B, 1C situation, but we want to be taking stabs on, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You mentioned Tank Bigsby coming in. You're like, it's Tank Bigsby season, but it's so funny how big of a difference that is for us in just regular fantasy football terms. Whereas in Guillotine Leagues, you're probably, you want to stay away from all those guys. You don't want to take a chance on a backfield that could be a 3-headed monster. You need guys to produce immediately. And I always think that that's why Guillotine Leagues is so fun, because you just throw out everything you know about regular fantasy and you have to go in and just win immediately, or just win to not be last week in and week out.
Exactly. We're playing for safety. We want proven players. Even if they're boring, we want proven players. And we just give me my 10 PPR points from everybody on my team. And that will keep me alive for the first couple of months of my Guillotine League. Tough to do that with when you're rolling the dice on players. You might get it right. Yep. I think Tank Bigsby is going to be really good. I love Tank Bigsby. But in Guillotine, way more dangerous than in a standard normal draft where you need to take stabs at guys like Tank Bigsby who have the chance to dramatically outperform their draft position like Tank Bigsby does. But in Guillotine, he's a lot more dangerous because we're speculating that Tank Bigsby is going to have a big role in that offense.
Paul Churchy, an insider. You heard it here. You already told us about Aaron Jones and how we should be going after Jordan Mason. Now you've heard it here first with Tank Bigsby. You like Tank Bigsby this year, but you
I
you
do.
always have. It's good.
I always have.
You
He's
have.
so good. He's so good. He's going to be the new Bucky Irving for Liam
Oh,
Cohen.
I love
I can't
this.
wait to see how this plays out. It's going to be so much fun. Jaguars as the most improved offense is in play. Can we agree?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I
A
mean,
thousand
Bears
percent.
are in this conversation, but I think it's going to take a little while for Ben Johnson to get that up and rolling. Liam Cohen, based on what we've seen in the small sample size he had with the Rams and the Bucks, he looks like a legit coach, and that team
Mhm.
is loaded. That offense is, in sneaky fashion, is loaded with big players. That's going to
I
be a
like it.
fun team. I want some Jaguars on my teams.
I love it. Well, Charge, thank you so much for stopping by again at Paul Charchian over there on X, on Twitter, and guillotinelinks.com, right, Paul? That's where everyone can go and get signed up
You
and
got it.
start playing.
GuillotineLeagues.com.
Awesome. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go through league winners here, Adam. We're going to finish our conversation, talk a little bit about a couple receivers, maybe some sneaky running backs. We're going to give you those names coming up next. I've got you covered. FantasyLife.com's got you covered for a great 2025 fantasy football season. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us right here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you on this Tuesday. Send us in any questions that you have at KValenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there. Just a little bit of updates that we see come in, Adam. We can't overreact. We don't want to be too worried about it. Hollywood Brown is leaving practice in the front of the cart, Adam. It's not the back, though, so maybe that makes it a little bit better. It says should have an update here after practice, so we'll watch that one. It looks like Xavier Worthy is being reported that he was shaken up. Don't know what that means, but we don't want to hear that for any of these Chiefs players, especially with what we just talked about with Hollywood Brown. And then Malik Neighbors looks like he left practice, will have his shoulder checked out, but it looks like that one is going to be okay per Ian Rappaport. Injuries. Just got to pay attention to them.
Yeah, and just don't overreact. We went through this last week with Justin Fields, and some of the headlines and things on social media were insane, and then he turns out to be fine. So just let it play out. Let's see what's reported. They said with Hollywood Brown, athletic trainers were looking at his lower leg. I will say Hollywood Brown has a difficult time staying healthy.
Yeah, he's been a little bit. Maybe we have to revisit the Travis Kelce conversation tomorrow.
It's going to be just like
news.
last year. All these guys are hurt or suspended. Well, we have
like,
no one
okay.
left. All right, Travis, here we go. Catch those 3-yard passes and fall down.
Listen, it makes him easier to press draft if all these guys are going to be banged up. So we're keeping an eye out and make sure you just read all the articles, read everything inside the headline because it is so important. But we'll be here monitoring all the news and updates from today and the rest of training camp, going through league winners, Adam, and just potential guys. I put together some names here, and I'm curious if you do believe, or you could just say, heck no, these guys are not going to win you a league. Since we're on the Chiefs, I did want to ask about Isaiah Pacheco to you. He's going in the 7th round right now over on Underdog. I can check where his other ADP is on ESPN, Yahoo, etc. But Isaiah Pacheco had, it was supposed to be the coming out party, right? And it just didn't, the injuries happened, and it was it was just a brutal season for Isaiah Pacheco. We talked to him at the Super Bowl. Super, great guy, all this stuff. Are you looking at him as a draft target this season? I know we're talking about potential guys that could be league winners. Again, I look at the 7th round prize tag and say, okay, if he really does outperform this ADP, he's going after guys like Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, Joe Mixon. So some bigger names going ahead of him. What are your expectations for him? Do you think he could win leagues this year?
I don't put him in the category of league winner, but yes, I would definitely draft him. I don't think you could take anything away from what you saw last season. He clearly came back too early from that injury and never looked the same. And you look at what the Chiefs did here in this backfield, they really didn't do much. Okay, they brought in Elijah Mitchell. Well, we know he has had a difficult time staying healthy. Kareem Hunt just isn't any good. He's not explosive at all. He basically gives you what you need. Just, okay, I'll get a couple yards, and that's it. There's no explosiveness at all. And then Brashard Smith, who they drafted in round 7. So they basically are telling you, okay, we think he's going to be fine, and he is going to be our guy. And you don't have to pay a high price. And if it doesn't work out, that pick where he's going is not going to crush you, right? Especially if you take him as your RB2 or RB3. Like, to me, the way I look at it is I don't mind getting a lot of guys at the running back position and trying to find one to fill my RB2 spot.
Yeah.
Especially if I can get one 3-down back or a guy I can count on early, and then I'll just take a bunch of shots. And you hope that one of them works out. And many years it has. 2 years ago was Kyron Williams. Last year, Chase Brown was in that conversation if you got Bucky Irving. So if you have a lot of those guys, and maybe sometimes two work out, and then like last year, if you did have one solid back and then you had Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, you're probably starting all three every week, and there goes your flex spot. And then if you had strong receivers too, you're in a good spot. But yeah, I'm open to drafting Pacheco where he goes. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a really good season. And he got off to a good start last year too, before he got hurt.
Yeah, and again, he's going pick 75 on Underdog. So I said that was 7th round, just to give some context here, because I'm going through the ADP tool. Pick 87 on ESPN, 62 on Sleeper, so a little bit more expensive on Sleeper and Yahoo. CBS is pick 75, so you're going to get him at the cheapest price on ESPN. But I'm with you. League winner, I do agree. Maybe a little bit of a stretch, but this is still projected to be. I think when I was looking at some of the odds, the Chiefs still project to be one of the league's highest scoring offenses in 2025. And so you say, maybe I want a piece of it. The wide receivers are getting a little bit banged up, but Pacheco, when we look at him for running backs, Adam, it's just the fact that he can handle a near every down role in this offense that, again, is fantasy friendly, has been fantasy friendly in the past. You look at them and they're supposed to, again, be one of the highest scoring offenses. And I say, okay, I like him a lot. And I have taken, I will say, best ball, a ton of Brashard Smith, just in case.
Yeah.
If he goes down, he's my favorite late round guy, because I can't stomach Kareem Hunt. Okay, that's really cool. I just can't do it. And so Elijah Mitchell, same thing that they got in free agency. Brashard Smith, when you go out and draft him, I just look at him and I think to myself, okay, if any of these guys were to go down, he has the potential. I know he's a rookie. I know that there's question marks there, but we're always looking for guys with potential to climb up depth charts. And I really like Brashard Smith in the best ball formats.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would definitely take the chance on him late in case it doesn't work out with Pacheco. But look, they told us last year Pacheco was going to get a big workload. And the first 2 games of the season, he had 17 touches in week 1 and scored a touchdown. And then week 2, he had 24 touches. So he was in line to be the guy for them, because I did like him last year. He was going a lot earlier last year, even 8 targets in the first 2 games. But he just came back too soon. There's no question about it. He just was not the same player. So I think that's something you want to watch in training camp. I know there were reports were positive in the offseason. He bulked up a little bit. But again, based on what the Chiefs did in their backfield, the indication to me is we believe Pacheco is going to rebound and be fine and be the guy.
And it cost RB26.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that. I like the cost that he's at right now. I know that the injury history, everything is baked into the ADP, which is what you want. It's better to have him there than as a top 20 running back, because, people are looking at it and saying, I believe in him and I believe in this offense. So I like him in that range, especially. Let me throw you one more. DK Metcalf. League winner. I know we talked about George Pickens, potentially league winner, I think it was a couple days ago. What are your expectations for DK Metcalf? We know he's got an older, just to say it nicely, an older quarterback over there. But Tomlin has always been a really nice coach. Wide receiver 24 off the board on Underdog right now. Could Metcalf be a league winner? I bring up some guys, and he says to himself, you know what? I don't want to talk about DK Metcalf. I'll say it though. I do believe that DK Metcalf could be a league winner potentially. I like where he's going in these parts of drafts right now. I'm looking at Underdog, and he's going as wide receiver 24. So I have to tell myself, DK Metcalf in a new landscape is something that I'm always looking at and saying, okay, maybe this is going to be better. You've got Aaron Rodgers there, who we know is an older quarterback, but he's still going to be able to deliver him the ball. You've got, yes, some other guys that we have to watch out for. Now Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, whatever it is, but I do believe in this range, wide receiver 24 for DK Metcalf, that he does have the potential to outperform that ADP and give you some fantasy goodness for 2025. We're going to continue on here. I want to talk about some more late round running backs that I like targeting in drafts. We're going to do that coming up next. As always, appreciate everyone hanging out with us on this Tuesday. Make sure you stick around here. Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right now on Fantasy Life. And as always, fantasylife.com. That's where you can go and sign up for either tier 1 or tier 2 with our subscriptions. SXM20 gets you 20% off either the tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. And it's great to have, great to dominate your leagues. We've got great tools for the preseason. We've got great tools in season. And like I said, we always have it up during this show. So make sure you go over there, SXM20 for 20% off. Adam, I teased and I said I wanted to talk about some favorite last round, late round picks is what we're going for here, because I know just mentioned Brashard Smith is someone that I said, hey, as a late round running back guy, you're not spending anything significant on him. Isaiah Pacheco missed 10 games last season. We talked about them having Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell in free agency. Let me throw you some other names and see if you're maybe on board, maybe not. I had to make sure I'm saying Kyle Manungai's name correctly, but it is Manungai, and I wanted to make sure about that. But if we've been talking about DeAndre Swift, which I know I have, saying he's one of my favorite running backs to draft, going 0 RB, they brought in really no competition. They drafted Kyle Manungai. He's like going in I think he's the 15th round, 16th round in some drafts, sometimes going undrafted. If we're thinking, okay, next man up mentality, if DeAndre Swift were to go down, we know Roschon Johnson's probably in that RB2 role, but I still like Kyle Manungai coming out because of, everything that Thor Nystrom said about him coming out of college. He just seems like someone that I don't mind throwing that late round dart on.
Yeah, there's so many running backs to throw late round darts on. It comes down to who you prefer. Also, maybe you have the starter in the backfield. So there are a lot of people that are down on Swift, but it looks like he has an opportunity. So I've been drafting him. I'm open to taking him. But yeah, if you feel that it's not going to work out for Swift, we know how potentially good this offense can be, or at least we're hoping with Ben Johnson in
We
there.
need it to be.
Yeah,
let's just say that.
Yeah, probably. There's a lot of players going in this offense right now, and some people are hoping Caleb Williams has that breakout. So fantasy players are dependent on that. But yeah, Monongai's a good late round pick if you're stashing a running back. Again, a lot of these guys will wind up being cuts off your roster the first couple weeks. We all know we're all going to hit waivers in week 1, so we need players to cut. But what I like doing at this time of the year, we're still not into August, right? It'll be August 1st on Friday. But if you are drafting this early, you want as many backup running backs on your bench as possible, because there could be an injury between now and then. Remember, if you are drafting this early, you're not going to have a waiver wire run for more than a month. You know how many things are going to change between now and then? So I want as many backup running backs or lottery tickets where they could potentially get the job or be the main back if an injury occurs during training camp, preseason, or right before the start of the season. You'd rather have those guys on your bench instead of a 6th wide receiver, like where the likelihood or the path for them to become fantasy relevant is going to take a lot. I mean, as much as I like Jalen McMillan last year, look how long it took. Like, if you drafted him, you really couldn't hold him. So, and last year was also a bad example because so many running backs stayed healthy, but the likelihood of that occurring again is slim. So I want as many running backs as I could. So yeah, if he's on the board and a lot of the preferences I have are gone, then Monongai will be on the roster.
And that's why we always target the late round running backs, right? Because there's an easier way for them to climb up depth charts than when we're talking about Roman Wilson or Jalen Naylor. While they could, step up into a role with injuries, just with the running backs and how frequently they usually get injured. Like you said, last season was one that it was kind of an outlier, and we can't expect that to happen every single time. While we would love it though, because it was great for fantasy managers, that's why we look at some of these late round running backs and say, all right, Kyle Monongai, there's potential there if Swift were to go down, or if he's just not good in that role. Between him and Roschon Johnson, he could step up. Let me give you Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Someone, Adam, that is, this is almost coming into a training camp darling situation, but we're not there yet because it just started. But you're going to see a lot of hype from him with the Washington Commanders saying that he is explosive. We know that they still have Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler just turned 30 years old, Jeremy McNichols, our guy, is still on that team. But this is a rookie that he had some eligibility issues. Adam, that was a crazy story, by the way. If you want to go, you guys should go look into that because the eligibility issues with Arizona were because he gave his number to someone else and then he became ineligible. But anyway, maybe one of these later round guys again that's going in the 19th round. You're spending nothing on him, but could be good.
Yeah, I mentioned him last week, and I have been drafting him even before these reports. 'Cause I thought there was an opportunity there for him, and now are seeing like the headlines that he's looking good and impressive. And again, don't want to go crazy here in training camp, but I did take him in
I like
the
it.
Scott Fish Bowl.
Oh, little late
Yeah,
round
round
pick for
19.
Jabari. There we
Round
go.
19.
That's all that it is. You either have to be patient or these are going to be the guys that you cut. You have to expect that you're taking zeros with a lot of these late round running backs that we're telling you. We're not saying you're starting them week 1 and they're going to be league winners for you. They're just not in that range yet. But if you're patient enough and you have the ability to wait for some of these running backs, that's what we're giving you their names for. Make sure you stick around right here. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. We'll see you same time tomorrow.